We don't need rights. Rights are a nonsense. They are part of the vernacular or the alphabet of deception that we project back at ourselves in this mutant cultural matrix. So you're right to raise the question, and you're right to identify that it's a non-question. We don't need rights. We never needed to have rights attributed to us or granted to us or given to us or offered to us, because rights are explicit, they are implicit, they are built into our mitochondria. And the fact that we live in a mutant cultural or civilizational program that tries to mindfuck us into thinking we need rights, that's a question that we need to look at. But you're absolutely correct. We don't need to be granted rights. The idea of being granted rights means that we are already on our knees, looking at the king, looking at Cronus, looking at the crown, and asking for redemption, asking for absolution. And we need to stop that childish nonsense now. And that's the point of Corona, the crowning event in our stupidity. The point is that we finally get off our knees and stand in the vibral light of our divinity as sons and daughters of God, and re-identify Alpha to Omega, everything we think we know about the life, the universe, history, ourselves, relationships with one another, and so on and so forth. Well, the fact that people are even concerned about the third party, meaning to say the creature that is judging them, the government or the Catholic Church,
Right.
or the local municipality or the local sheriff's office or the local prison warder, or whoever the fuck it is that's standing there, standing over you, trying to impose their jurisdiction over your divine freeborn jurisdiction. Why are we even acknowledging the voice that's coming from that creature? Why do we give a damn about that creature? Why are we permissioning that creature into raising the question? You see, sovereignty and freedom is consciousness in action, and pure consciousness in action is standing directly under central sun, which is the divine prerogative that each of us are innately born to and born with. Meaning to say that when I am standing in my true sovereignty, my true consciousness in action is activated, and I am looking at you and I am telling you, the third party, the government, the fiction, the corporation, I'm telling you, stand down. You are a godless fiction. You are false light. You are the Luciferian enterprise. You are the principle of Satan or of the kingdom of the devil. You hold no thrall over me. I do not stand under you. I do not enter your jurisdiction. I do not permission you. I grant you no thing, nothing, because you don't exist. You're a fiction. And you see, the moment I made that statement, because I recognize the truth of it, I am no longer standing under the thrall of that dream spell or that spell binding. This is very important. This is a language for me to identify within the alphabet of my own heart. Do I stand 1 foot in the kingdom of the devil and 1 foot in the kingdom of God, or do I not? My answer is no. There is no foot over the line. You don't put your foot in the door in order to gain traction. Oh, just get your foot in the door, son. No, I don't think so. I don't think any of that language will work moving forward. I do not give 1 micrometer, 1 degree of my actualized self to the kingdom of the devil. And that's the language that each of us now are being forced to recognize, this absolute line of consciousness and conscience within. And to the degree to which we permission anything out there to infringe or infract on that line and to stand in to that line. So that's the key, let's say the axis point or the nexus point right now that every human being on the face of the earth is being required as a matter of survival, and I'm talking about soul survival, we are all being required to acknowledge and address this principle, which is, do I allow the kingdom of the devil, the mark of the beast, the lethal cocktail of synthetic mRNA, genetic intervention chemicals, do I allow that into my blood or do I not? Am I permissioning the devil to target my mitochondria and snip my DNA and replace it with some other godless elements? This is what it's come down to. So it's consciousness, it's consciousness, it's consciousness in action, which is sovereignty, which speaks to the language of freedom, the thing that we most want. Why do we want freedom so desperately? Because it's innate, because it's written into our cells, and because the one thing that is true above all is that we are free. We were born free. We migrated through the great galactic planes to get into this earth plane. At the moment of our inception, the moment of our birth, this was all our soul covenant. We chose to soul migrate into this earth plane. It wasn't done to us. You know, there wasn't some great enticement or entrapment. We chose because we are courageous, because each one of us are Christed. Each one of us are sons and daughters of God. And even although many of us, most of us have forgotten that, when you fall into this world, when you come into this world, and the ancient Greeks told us this, they said, when you come into this world, you drink the cup of Lethe, the cup of forgetfulness, and it's true. So when you're born through the symbiotic waters of the mother, and you're born into this world, the first thing that happens is ka-ching, you forget. There is no remembrance. And that's because culture hits us. The civilizational program hits us. The doctor receives us in the hospital, or the nurse receives us, and they start to spank our asses and cut the umbilical cord with stainless steel. All of these are tremendous infractions against our sovereignty. We should never be manhandled by another human being who's not directly connected to the empathic wave of our mother's love. We should not have any men with surgical steel in the room cutting umbilical cords. This is a diabolical violation of the law of one.
Right from the start.
Right from the start, we are brought into the kingdom of the devil with a smack across the face. And that's the problem. And then we start to goo goo gaga. And what happens is all of our moronic uncles and aunts and cousins and nephews are all leaning in at the pram, pointing at us and going goo goo gaga and teaching us bullshit. They start the mind fuckery on day one, and they start to take us away from our divine, immanent remembrance of the typhonic state of consciousness, of the remembrance that we have, the connectedness that we have to the universal mind gets bleached out of us on day one, programmed out of us. And the next thing, we start getting false syntax, false language, false grammatical language is thrown at us. And we start to ooh, ah, ee, ah, ooh, and start to speak. And these are mutant codes. They're mutant codes. This is not our true language. Our true language is way beyond ah, eh, ah, oh, ooh, whatever's taught to us. And this is the problem. So the minute we start to speak, we're indentured, boom, that's it. There is a lot of beauty to language. And if one understands Aramaic and Hebrew and Sanskrit and even, you know, going back to the genesis of language, there's a power to it. There's a mathematic to it. It's beautiful in its way. But you're absolutely correct. The true here, the real atom seed of the truth of the matter here is that we are born for telepathy. We are born for psionic activation, to be able to communicate through the wave of empathy, to understand implicitly, immediately, instantaneously through the quantum field what each other is thinking and feeling. That is the importance of empathy. That is the importance of so-called compassion, is that I feel you. I feel your pain, and that your pain is my pain is your pain, and we're interconnected in this. And together we'll work through this pain together. That's the business of fellowship. And that's what we ought to be placing our collective and our individual attention toward in this world, is fellowship, the art of loving and being loved. it should be bloody obvious that what we do is we stop dehumanizing ourselves. We stop playing into the satanic pantomime. But how many have the courage to do it? Everyone is mind fucked into acquiescence, into obedience, into shuffling along like a godless lemming until you fall off the end of the cliff and then ask, why me, oh Lord? Well, that's why, you dumbass, because you shuffled along in the queue, because you filled out the forms with the block black capital letters, because you were the one permissioning every step of the way. Don't be blaming Anthony Fauci. He's a master. He's a Zen master. Don't be blaming Bill Gates. He's a fucking Walt Disney character, and a beautiful one, a perfect archetype, the perfect bogeyman, lurching at you with the toxic syringe. I mean, these are creatures are there to serve us. All of those creatures are there to serve us. Governor Cuomo, who thank God is no longer a governor in New York. What a satanic piece of shit. But there you go. That kind of character straight out of a Batman movie. These are all archetypes that manifest in direct proportion to the collective, unresolved aspects of who we are as a culture, as a people, as a society. So let's not keep focusing on them out there, much less the tit in the uniform at the train station or the bus station or the supermarket guy preventing you coming in without a mask on it. We should be, I heard about one guy in New York last week who is standing outside train stations and supermarkets, and he's looking official in a kind of suit and tie with a clipboard and something around his neck, and he's stopping people as they're going in, hundreds of them, and he's saying, please take your mask off. We no longer allow masks in this establishment. Hundreds of people are filing in with their masks thrown in a bin that he provides them, and they go in, and you've got the store detectives running around in circles, people going crazy. But that's the kind of counterpoint terrorism that we should be playing. We should be playing games with the satanic pantomime. We should be tying their shoelaces together so they fall over every day. But what you should not be doing is playing into it. You should not be playing into it. And if you do, eternal shame on you. And I don't care what your reason is. If you've got to feed your babies, find another shop. Find another shop to shop in. Just do not patronize these establishments, any one of them that are playing into the satanic pantomime. And that's the end of it. So you do not agree or acquiesce to any of it. And so long as you walk in honor as an individual, you are standing in the Christed light, you are walking in the Christed light, you are the meek who will inherit the earth when everyone else drops dead like tsetse flies, which is about to happen. In point of fact, it's already begun. But before that great wave of the harvest of humanity hits early next year, you're going to see zombie apocalypse kicking off in the next few weeks. It's already begun. It's already started. You're just not being told, but it's happening all around the world. I mean, the mitochondria has been snipped. The DNA has been literally bushwhacked, hijacked, hacked. The fabric of human soul is being hacked right now. Human blood is undergoing a terrible transformation and mutation right now. I received this morning from one of the world's premier medical scientists. I won't name her here, but she's one of the most prolific medical scientists in the world. And she sent through to me about 40 plates of images taken of blood microscopy, showing people who haven't been vaccinated, but who are sitting in restaurants next to other people who have been vaccinated, and they are being impacted and affected at such a level that the blood is mutating in ways that we've never seen under microscopy before. It is terrifying. The spike protein is transmitting all around the kill grids, otherwise known as cities and towns, and people are being impacted and affected. So once that reaches a terminal state in the blood of the subject, given the environment and the changing seasons and so on, especially as the European winter and North American winter approaches, you're going to see systemic increase in deaths, which would be attributed obviously to COVID-19. And of course, at this point, it will be attributable to COVID-19, which is indeed a satanic intervention in the human story. So go figure. Just be prepared, as you must have spent the last year preparing yourself. I'm speaking to intelligent people here, conscious people and intelligent people will have already used past year as a means, as a medium of getting themselves ready, preparing themselves for the psycho-emotional shock waves which are coming. It's very, very important that each one of us, how do I say, dig very, very deep and really find the throne of self within the center of your being and your knowing. Take that throne and sit in that throne and be very still and very present and keep your heart wide, wide open. Do not close any part of your human heart. Allow yourself to be completely unveiled, unmasked at that level, but be in that throne of your being and your knowing as you begin to bear witness to what is about to happen in this world. It's going to take probably up to 2 years, maybe 3 years. I would suggest that we're looking at a pretty rough ride between here and 2024 in that sense, in the sense of having to psycho-emotionally take impacts that you never imagined possible. Because there's something honest about a bullet entering someone and blowing the back of their head out. At least there's a time and motion that you can rationalize. You know, okay, the First World War and the Second World War and the Napoleonic Wars, the three worst war complexes we've ever known. Those three wars, world wars, in a sense, were you could navigate them with reason to some extent, even although they were the reason for war was manufactured. One still could rationalize it. It was time and motion. Now we're dealing with the realm of the invisible. This is a world war that's taking place in the fourth dimensional plane of reality. It's in the imagination, put it that way. So the whole Corona COVID-19 fantasy is a complete imagined phantasm, coupled with a very small biologically engineered weapon, a strain or series of pathogens. Please excuse me. A series of pathogens which have been and continue to be released into the field, but they're not so much as released into the field as they are triggered by 5G and electromagnetic frequency intervention, where those scalar waves coming from everywhere from military satellites down to the street lamps, which have been weaponized with these phased array antenna systems and little diode weapons. We are being targeted and bombarded from left, right, and center with mutant electromagnetic frequency sets. Those are causing mutations in the waters of the cells of biological systems, like humans walking around the city or the market square or in the football stadium or wherever you are. That particular toxic soup that you're walking through or sleeping in, or sitting in a train or a bus or an airplane, is causing mutation internally in the cells. So the cells are responding and going, oh my God, I'm being poisoned by invisible electromagnetic frequencies, which are highly toxic to biological systems. Your body is rejecting them, packaging the poisons that are being activated into little packets called exosomes. And then those are being rejected and thrown out of the body. So that's a kind of shedding that's in place. And the spike protein phenomenon is connected to this. It's a natural response, autonomous response of the body to reject certain things and to get them out of the body. Just throw the exosomes or the spike proteins out. So they now become a problem. You know, the exosome in and of itself is fine. There's no virus attached to that, but a spike protein is a different matter. That's something which we're seeing will harm other biological systems. So it's very, very clever, invisible warfare that we're living through right now, which takes it to a whole different level, because the imagination is one dial down from the world of spirit. And in that sense, it's helping us and serving us, because this world war that we're going through right now, of the imagination, is helping to catalyze and trigger a spiritual awakening. And that's a powerful and beautiful thing, especially when it happens at the collective psionic level, because it means that there's going to be an incredible magnification and focus of the collective spiritualization of this earth plane. It's just going to be like a laser beam in the abyss. This earth has been special for hundreds and hundreds of millions of years. It is about to become super, super special. Unfortunately, what it appears we have been invoking for ourselves at the collective level is a kind of audit and a bifurcation, a falling away of the wheat from the chaff. So the death and the entropy and the disease and the death that is coming now, by our permissions, is the falling away of the wheat from the chaff. And that is something which is deeply, deeply saddening at the galactic level. At the same time, it is a soul covenant. It's all connected to soul choices. I just want to end this piece by saying, can we redeem ourselves and our loved ones from this bifurcation? Can those imbeciles who've rolled up their sleeves and taken a lethal cocktail, can they redeem themselves now? 3 months ago, I was saying no, categorically. 2 months ago, I was saying I don't believe so. A month ago, I was saying I'm not sure. Now I'm changing my tack, because I've learned so much in the last few weeks, and I'm on the case every single day. I am meeting with doctors and scientists and biologists and microscopists and even talking to victims and survivors of different things. So I'm very in the conversation, and I'm beginning to learn that it may well be possible to fire up the breach in the mitochondria, but it's going to take a superhuman action on the part of the subject, the individual who willfully chose to get a vaccination because they're a fearful piece of shit living in a city, and they are happy to condemn the whole of humanity into this kingdom of the devil because of their own pedestrian fear and unresolved aspects of who they are as a low frequency human. And I'm saying that bluntly because any twat who chose to get a vaccine and believes for 1 second that Bill Gates is a fucking philanthropist and that Anthony Fauci is a fucking savior, then you are, by a distinction, an imbecile, a moron, and you have already abdicated your divinity and your reason. So I have little sympathy for those brothers and sisters. I would just say, if there's something in you that is hearing something in what I'm saying, you might just be within the grip of redemption, but you have to do some quick thinking. You better get to grips with a relationship with yourself, number one, and rekindle that divine flame within yourself. Recognize the error of your ways. Recognize your stupidity and your folly. Forgive yourself. I'm not going to forgive you anytime soon, but you forgive yourself for that folly. And then you fall to your knees and pray for forgiveness. And then reconvene a relationship with the divine. Everything changes. Everything changes at the cellular level, at the atomic level, at the psionic level, and you can redeem yourself. It will take a superhuman action on the part of any of the imbeciles. There's another phenomenon, which is genetic, the intervention that I can have over you if I love you. The empathic wave. The linguistic wave genetic. This is what we refer to this phenomenon as. Linguistic wave genetics. My capacity to absolve my child from their folly. My capacity to absolve my grandmother or grandfather from their folly. Because I love them so much. And I know that what they did was stupid. but I know that they didn't have the tools, the toolkit here or here to make a divinely inspired, reasonable decision about the vaccine. And so my love for them is the empathic wave extended. It's plasma, it's vibral light, it's the Christed nature of who we are at our essence. And I am able to project that plasma at you, my beloved. And I am able to redeem you. And I'm able to love you and absolve you and heal you. In fact, that is what healing is all about. That's what it's always been about, is the capacitance for me to lay hands on you and you to lay hands on me. But again, we get back into the true language of fellowship, which is who and what we are and why we were born to this world. We shouldn't be sending kids to universities to get mind fucked. We shouldn't be putting kids in schools, full stop. We should be sitting in circles telling stories. We should be listening to one another. We should be hearing our babies remind us of our divinity and telling us the stories of the Pleiades and the Syrian constellation and wherever they've just beamed in from. They should be reminding us. They should be informing us, and they should be instructing us. We've got everything upside down in that sense. So we need to begin to tell stories and sit in circles and hear one another. And then we need to learn craft. We need to learn art and remember craft and art. We should be singing and painting and dancing and drawing and discovering and revealing, and everything should be a matter of adventure and curiosity and creative expansion and, dare I say it, orgasmic bliss and euphoria. That's what we were born to. That's what the human technology is all about. That's what my body tells me. That's what everything from my toes to my penis to my brain is craving. Ecstasy is craving the orgasmic, is craving interconnectedness, fellowship, and convention with the all. So we have to be the ones to just not just reimagine that as a reality, but to stake our claim in the now. And so I begin here. I begin elevating art, beauty, and consciousness in this world. And I begin to anchor into this fucked up, delightful plane of existence, the multidimensional genius and supernature of who I am, who I be at my quintessence. And I gift that to this world. We should all be gifting everything to one another all the time. Well, I've never meditated in my life. I've never said a prayer in my life. So I don't, although I understand the sanctity of prayerfulness and I understand the sanctity of mindfulness and mindlessness, and depending on how you approach your spiritual devotion, is it mindfulness or mindlessness? We need to identify that for ourselves. What I do know is I've learned the art of stillness in being here now. I've learned the art of authenticity in as much as I am brutally frank with self. And in that frankness, I fell in love with self and began to understand that self and the revelation of self was the gateway to understanding everything and anything. And that being at peace within self is vital to being able to kindle the flame of creativity and then to move into this 3D temporal realm or fourth early 5D realm, however we want to look at the transition that's happening. But to be able to move into this realm and just affirm and just expand and just create, that for me is the purpose. And so to look at the playground as it stands right now, with 7.8 billion souls in a state of civilizational dystopia, the likes of which we've never seen apparently in this world, certainly not in living in memory or in the historical record. That's another question. But the fact of the matter is that it is a diabolical mess right now. Everything is thrown into dystopia. And in that chaos, um, we need to identify the peace and the stillness within in order to navigate through to the other side. I'm using reductive, stupid nursery school language, which I don't like, but I think you know what I mean. In order to navigate through this chaos, through this pandemonium, the only way we will be able to do it, or are able to do it, is to identify with the still point within. And the still point is what prayer objective it moves toward. That's the objective of prayer. That's the
Right.
objective of meditation and
Right.
so on. But it's also the objective of high art, and it's also the objective of whether they know it or not. People who are having sex, making love, um, masturbation, sexual ecstasy is also a kind of false light, inverted method of seeking that still point, that ecstatic still point within.
Right.
It's where we truly come alive, and that's because we momentarily reconvene with our multidimensional divine aspect. I'll give you an example of this. Every heartbeat, every time the heart comes in and constricts at the point before it then goes Buddha boom, Buddha boom. Every time it comes into the constriction and creates this kind of spin and crushes all that is into a 0 point momentarily. That constriction 0 point is a point where we technically are dead for 1 instant, for a fraction of an instant. We die with every heartbeat. This is well known to the shaman. We move into a hyperdimensional state of being, albeit at an infinitesimal level of remembrance, and then boom, we're back in the mortal realm, and then we die again, then we're back in, we die again, we're back in. The same could be said of the breath and the circular breathing, and the way in which the exhaled breath turns around to become the inhaled breath, turns around to become the exhaled breath. Well, you tell me the point at which an inhaled breath becomes an exhaled breath. There's an axiomatic point there. There has to be a nexus point, but we've never identified it. We've never identified when the exhaled breath turns around and becomes the inhalation. You can't find the point. It doesn't actually exist. And that's because every exhalation is an inhalation, and every inhalation an exhalation in the same diametric proportion. To the degree to which we think reality is, it is not. This is part of the language of Alpha Omega, which when we're sitting in that throne of self and in that still point, we start to understand the beauty of that indivisible language, which is what our supernature, our true genius, is always trying to remind us. Don't take this world too seriously. We are unfathomably brilliant, unfathomably clever, and unfathomably beautiful when we're not allowing ourselves to be reduced and limited and mind fucked by a status quo. Well, we're taking a step backward in the conversation, but I don't mind that. Obviously, the answer is no. It doesn't serve us. How can selling ourselves short right now serve us in the future? Well, that unfortunately has been the premise of the entire fucked up global social economy and social ecology. Has been the principle that if I sell myself short right now, I'll benefit somewhere down the line. Bullshit. Sunshine, you will not, you never will. But that's how mortgages are sold. That's how insurance and reinsurance is sold. That's how dentists peddle their wares. That's how the whole premise of our economy is based on a lie. It's not just a white lie, it's a diabolical lie, which we even know is a lie at the outset. And yet it is fear and fearfulness that compels us, apparently, to enter into the kingdom of the devil day after day after day. And so we continue to wake up in the morning to an alarm clock, which breaks our circadian rhythms, violates the universal law of one, wakes us up out of our idyllic sleep pattern and pushes us into the bathroom to brush our teeth with a fluoridated toothpaste, gargle with fluoridated water so we calcify the pineal gland and reduce our capacitance to about 2.5%. And then we shuffle downstairs, putting on our synthetic socks and underwear, releasing isotope frequencies, which move directly into our bloodstream and poison us. And we sit at the breakfast table and eat boiled eggs and toast. And then we go off to work. We get into a carbon guzzling machine and we go to work. Have we ever stopped to ask, what are we doing? What the devil are you doing? Being a good provider? I don't think so. I don't think you can sell that bullshit to yourself anymore. Your kids couldn't give a monkey's what you do. Your kids would far rather be playing in a forest or on a beach or on a mountainside somewhere, living off grid, under the sunshine, under the eternal gaze of the limitless dielectric universe, running barefoot with the telluric forces and paramagnetic forces of the inner earth and the elementals running around them. That's where your babies want to be. They don't want to be hamstrung, hog-tied, mind, body, and soul in the way that you force them into it in a city grid, in a town grid. That is a nonsense you sell to yourself because you're a chicken shit. That's why. Because you've never stopped long enough to ask yourself, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are you appointing reality? How are you anointing self in the reality? These are questions which we never ask ourselves because we've allowed ourselves to be reduced to that 2.5% capacitance. And then we do a job and we get coin at the end of the month, and we push and shove in our occupation, our vocation. We push and shove, we elbow people out the way, we kick people in the face as they try and come up the ladder behind us because they're better than us, because they're more beautiful than us, because they're brighter than us, more innocent than us. We kick them in the face. We trip them up. We treat people like shit in customer services. No one knows how to treat customers any longer. It's all just about, give me your card, give me your digital coin. Now get out my way. It's ugly. We've become ugly. There's no relationship in exchange, in commerce. So why are we doing it? Why are we staying with the program? Because the worse it gets, the more fearful we become, the more constricted we become in our imagination, in our creative potential. And so it's a self-fulfilling, self-revealing, self-identifying death spiral. And you are the one doing it to you. And if you're a father or a mother, you are the one doing it to your babies. Eternal shame on you. Stop being chicken shit. Get out of the kill grid. Re-identify your life. Sell this toxic little box that you live in, or reappoint it and re-anoint it with trees and with flowers and with bioshielding devices so that you at least create a plasma bubble and start to breathe within that plasma bubble. Change your orientation, change your identification, change your focus, and then spread love in the city by all means. If you can do that, if you've got the stamina for that, do it. Fellowship, fellowship, fellowship is all. But I would say to mothers and fathers, to providers, get out while you can, because it's not going to be for much longer that you can actually do that. The banks are going to be pulling the rug. They will be trying to force this so-called quantum reset onto everyone. And at that point, you would be well advised to be living out of a kill grid. I'll leave it at that. How would I do it in a situation like that? I would simply evaluate everything that I need around me, everything I don't. I'd sell everything I don't need. I would reduce the clutter of my life right down to a couple of suitcases and a trunk and a pram. And I would get out of Dodge. I would just spend the next 3 weeks or month or so just studying and divining and doing pendulum and feeling my way toward a different space, a different location where there's some semblance of community and organic foods and ionized air. And I would make the plunge, and I would know that the universe, the so-called universe, would would cradle me and would embrace me in that decision. I'm loath to speak in the negative about him any more than I've already done in the past. I don't find Skynet attractive. I find it reprehensible. I don't find the Tesla automotive phenomenon to be anything exceptional. I think it's cynical, and I think it's opportunistic, and I think it's trashy. Um, I don't respect the Elon Musks of this world. I see them as being sock puppet proxy motherfuckers in the main. I don't know the truth of that. I'm sure I would like the guy. I'm sure he's very clever. I just know that if I had that acumen and that wealth, I would purpose it very differently toward forcing through patterns of perfection into this world and not playing into the old models. And don't talk to me about space rockets getting to the moon. That's just a crock of shit, and we all know it. Don't talk to me about space tourism. That's a disgusting notion, so long as we can't feed people in Burkina Faso. Fuck you for even putting that on the board table and then raising billions of dollars to send tourists into space. That's disgusting. Talk about people putting them into Tesla mobiles, which are Faraday cages, complete toxic soup, debilitating at the cellular level, all of those vehicles, vile, noxious use of technology, if you ask me. Talk about hyperlink travel, this kind of fancy pants, maglev, hyperlink kind of systems for transportation. Again, fuck you. We can't even feed people in North Africa. Don't be stupid. What are you doing purposing billions of dollars and attention toward that? Let's feed, clothe, and house our fellows first, shall we? That would be nice. So that's my attitude toward those kinds of characters. I don't care what they think or say or do. I'm concerned about my brothers and sisters, my living men and women of the living soil. Those are my brothers and sisters, and that's the world I'm pegged to, and I am focused on. Is how do we take common people of the world, and I regard myself as common people in that context. How do we remove ourselves from indentureship to the kingdom of the devil? Well, I've spent 20 plus years identifying much of that, and I've done everything in my power to give those tools, and I continue to do it to people of the world, to say, stop paying taxes. Why would you pay income taxes? You're an imbecile for doing so. Because you're afraid? Then you're chicken shit. You should be embarrassed looking in the mirror in the morning. Secondly, why are you filling out forms with block black capital letters? Why are you signing your signature on bits of paper simply because you're told to? Why? Have you ever stopped for long enough to work out what's going on? Do you know that every time you fill out a form with block black capital letters, your signature is being securitized and discounted or discharged against your birth bond? Do you know that they're making money out of you every time you sign a piece of paper? Did you know that that's how it works? No, because you're too stupid. You're too ignorant in your own prison, and you're the one having tea in a prison cell until you choose not to, until you choose to wake up. And apparently people want to really hurt more before they wake up. I think that's sad, deeply sad. But there you have it. No, we each of us individually need to awaken within self. We each of us individually need to kindle a relationship with ourselves, fall in love with ourselves, recognize that the beloved we're seeking is self. And I'm not talking about the Aleister Crowley, ego self. I'm talking about the essence of who we are. When I recognize that I am that thou art, that there is no separation between us, that we are all sons and daughters of God in that sense. But I'm starting here because this is the technology I control. I choose what to put into this technology. I choose how to curate it. I choose how to steward my journey in life. I choose where to roam freely. I choose what comes out of this mouth. the words, the syntax. I choose what comes out of this heart. I choose what comes into this heart. So start with this technology. The beloved is always self. But most of us are so lost to that alpha omega truth that we're out there seeking the beloved outside of self, and we fixate the beloved onto some icon, baby Jesus, or some Catholic cross for the love of God, or some rosary beads, or some stained glass bullshit. We're always looking out there and idolizing idolatry, idolatry, idolatry. It was the crime of crimes that the Master Yeshua spoke about. It was the crime of crimes that Gautama Siddhartha Buddha spoke about when he said, if you find the Buddha on your path, kill him. It was the crime of crimes that the blessed Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, spoke about when he went into the Kaaba in Mecca and trashed the idols and trashed the Banat Allah out in the desert. The crime of crimes has always been idolatry, to indenture oneself to false light worship. It is a crime against self, because it's what detracts us from the true hero's journey, the noble expression, which is recognizing self in this mortal realm and engaging relationship with self, convening with self as the beloved. And from that start point, being able to then move into the world at large and extend your empathy, your compassion, your wisdom flame, your creativity, your limitlessness, and your love for your fellows. That's how we should be rolling, each one of us. What I know is that it's not about time and motion. It's about authenticity of being here now and being absolute and being fully present. And so long as one is absolute in authenticity, which is to say relationship with self, the more we are in peace with that relationship with the self, the more we are in the flow of our divine immanent supernature, the more we are in flow with our divine immanent supernature, the more limitless our capacitance to just create and express and expand is. And what flows through us is always in convention with pure truth and right action. And so long as we're conducting right action and pure truth in this mortal realm, that is the path of least resistance to the highest outcome. And each of us are enjoined in one thing in this world as humanity, and that is we are seeking the highest outcomes.